live now or after the little thing ends? I'm guessing it's after it ends, right?
Well,
That must be what it does.
I'm assuming it's after it ends. So,
Wow.
good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good
Good
morning,
Monday
good
morning.
morning. Yes, it's another Monday, a joyous Monday, joyous Monday. How was your weekend?
It was good. We kind of stayed home and worked, and it was cold, so we stayed in the house.
It was beyond cold.
Yeah, it got a little bitter yesterday.
I think we watched some fat birds yesterday.
We did.
I think we've overfed them.
Kylan's been feeding the birds out here,
Yeah.
and
And
there's a couple of them that I don't even know if they could get off the ground right now.
they're getting big. But I think they like the food. They love the food.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially as cold as it was.
It was so cold yesterday. I felt so bad for the birds. But hey, they're healthy. They're healthy.
That's
They're
a good way to look at it.
Yes,
That's the way I
they're
look at
very
me
healthy.
too. I'm healthy.
Oh, it was fun. Oh, we had a great weekend, and looking forward to another week. Another week working with our clients, working with potential clients, working with future clients. We've got some really cool new things coming into the 3i Life world, as we've already shared with you guys in some of our past Monday Mind Shifts. But we're really excited about where everything's going right now. So,
Yep.
Rebecca, I see it is 6:30, and it's time to introduce this week's topic. This one's going to be fun.
You know, we talked about talking about awareness. We've discussed that quite a few times, and this is one of those topics, but it's not completely on that. Um, this one kind of consists of, what do you want or need to look for if you don't know what you're looking for?
How do you find it?
Right. And if how do you even begin? I mean,
Where
when
do
we
you
talk
start?
about personal development and leadership, and people are seeking out, yes, I want something different. I want growth.
Hmm.
And where do they begin? And so
Yeah.
that's the topic today.
So where do you start? We'll start there. Where do you start, Rebecca, when you are wanting something out of your life, or you want to figure something out, you want to learn something new, you want to go somewhere with an idea? What do you do?
Well, I've learned, um, now I know where to go. When I first started this, I kind of learned a lot of this leadership stuff through osmosis, through listening to you and learning from you, and so I had it a little different. So I guess it was asking questions to you. You had been reading some of the leadership books and learning from John Maxwell and others. And so for me, I asked you questions. So I think that would be like takeaway number one: ask questions, because you have to find out what you're looking for. You have to figure out what it is that you're wanting out of it. Um, and B, when you start asking questions, you're seeking where to find it, so people will give you guidance.
What if you don't know what you want? You ever struggled with that?
Absolutely. Or you want so many things, which is, where do you go? Where do you start from that? So I think it's, you got both sides. You don't know what you want, or you want so many things. It gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest challenges that I see a lot of people making is, instead of choosing a path and going down a path and choosing that direction, they'll end up trying to choose everything
Right.
and do nothing. As you know, I'm guilty of that, right? I can definitely get caught up in that space and end up seeing, it's what we call the shiny object syndrome,
Right.
right? And or I feel obligated, or if I feel like I have to do this because this is part of what I've done in the past. right? This is my experience. So this is the path that I'm supposed to be going. And that's not always true.
Right.
That is just not always true. You've got to go down the path that you are created for and what you are creating in your mind. And you have to learn how to prioritize. You have to learn how to focus. You have to learn how to choose the right things to get the right outcome and not choose everything.
Right.
And a lot of it is, what are the things that I want? What am I really wanting as an end result? And if we understand what it is we truly want, then we can start sorting out the things that we don't want, that are not going to take us where we need to go. The hardest part, though, is identifying what you really want. And that seems to be super hard for some people. You know, I have a lifetime goal that I want to achieve. I've got a lifetime goal. I've got a 10-year goal. I've got a 1-year goal as far as what I want. But that lifetime goal, like it's like if I can look back from my deathbed and I can look back at the end of my life and say I achieved success, I know what that is. I can put that into words. And I think that's part of what guides me. You know, that's part of what guides me, because there's so many different paths I can take in life. But that's the path that I want. That's the path that I want. I want to be able, from my deathbed, to be able to say certain things and to be a certain type of person. That's what I want. And that's kind of like the guiding star. And there's a lot of different paths that can get there, but that's the direction I'm going.
Right.
I wonder how many people can actually say that they could be able to say, I don't know when that day comes, but when I look back from that day, that's what I want.
Well, and something that we've discussed is everybody's path is different.
Hmm.
So,
The path is going to be different. We're all different.
absolutely. And the things that I want, is because that's what's kind of hard when we talk about these Monday mind shift things sometimes is these are our perspectives. These are
Yep. Yep.
our thinking and you know, not everybody is the way that we are, and that's fine.
Yep.
That's fine. You have to figure out what it is for you individually that of where you want to go. Um, and even you and I together sometimes once in a while we have a different perspective on how to get there or which path, that we both need to be on. And it's a big
Yeah.
discussion.
One of the things we do with our coaching clients, or we have done, we don't do it all the time, but one of the things that we like to do is say, okay, imagine you're at your 90th birthday party, right? You're 90 years old, you're celebrating your 90th birthday party, and all of your friends are in the room. Your family's in the room. Who are they, for starters? What do they say about you? Everybody's going to stand up and give their little speech. Who are they and what do they say about you? And when you think about it from that perspective, they're going to say things about who you are, obviously. They're going to say things about what you've done for them, with them, to them, and just when you imagine that in your mind and you think about who's in the room, that's going to be colleagues, it's going to be a lot of different people. And then ask yourself the question, what have I accomplished? What have I accomplished to end up there? What have I done in my life to be successful at that point?
See, this is the difference between you and me because I would be thinking they're saying, wow, she made it to 90. And I'd be thinking, wow, I made it to 90. So
But
yes, I don't want to look back at my accomplishments, but
but you're looking at it in the future.
I know that.
So yeah, that's it's called the imagination.
Yes.
I want to imagine what that looks like, because that's where you start setting your star, right? You start setting that star out there. And I've had people say, "Well, I don't know what I want out of life. I could do this, I could do that, I could go here, I could go there." When you have two or three different options, you don't have really anything because you don't know which direction to go.
Right.
And if you're struggling to establish your legacy vision, that's to me is like one of the very first things you want to be able to do is establish that legacy vision. What is that? And if that's a struggle, that's got to be number one. Create that legacy vision. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for? What have you done in your life? Who have you become? Why did you focus on that?
Yeah.
Right? Because if that's a struggle, everything else is going to be a struggle.
So one of the questions is, if you don't know what you're looking for, how do you know what to look for?
That's right.
So how do you know what to look for? I
How do you start that?
I think the first thing to do is goes back to deciding what it is that you want. What do you want? What it would be your end goal for that, whatever it is that you're looking for?
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't. Those of you who know me, I'm a person of faith, and I truly do believe that we are a spiritual being living in a physical body, having an intellectual experience. Our intellect is not who we are. It's a part of the process. It's part of the journey. But if we go out with the belief that we are a spiritual being, and that comes first, there's this idea called inspiration. And when you think about inspiration, it's really in spirit. It's there's spirit within you. So when you think about inspiration, when you can sit down and close your eyes and you begin to dream a little bit and just take time to really be quiet, to think, to dream, to envision who you want to be and who you believe you're supposed to be. And when you sit down and you really, really start to just create those pictures in your mind, to me, that's a starting point. To identify what you really want, you have to be able to see something. You've got to be able to see something. You can't just say it or write it down on paper until you can see it. And that's an important part is taking seriously the fact that we need to just be quiet, listen, dream, think a little bit. Let let the mind and the spirit work together and create a picture for you. That makes sense?
It does. That's something that's difficult for me.
What
It's
what do you
difficult
think makes it difficult?
because I start running. I mean, my mind then goes 47 different directions,
So how do you
and it's
keep it focused?
I haven't figured that quite out yet. It is very difficult for me to do. It is something that is hard for me. Even when I'm working, when we work on our computers and you're in one room and I'm in the other, you like it quiet. You like it. I like to have something playing, music or a show. I mean, I don't even watch the show. It's just noise in the background. That helps me focus because if I sit quietly and I think I try to just close out everything. I It's the same thing when I go to bed. I'm not one of those people that can lay down and 2 minutes later I'm asleep. I'm one of those people. I lay down and then I start thinking, "Oh yeah, well, 3 months from now I got to make sure this is done, and 6 months ago I forgot to do this, so I got to do it." Those are the things that start going through my head, and I know I'm not the only one because this is a topic of especially females have this discussion, so for me to sit and think, um, it's to just sit quietly and try to listen. It is very hard for me.
Okay. Do you think it can be practiced and learned?
Hmm. I know the correct answer is yes. I know that's what I'm supposed to say.
That's why I asked you directly.
I
It
know
wasn't
that.
it wasn't a question. It was a yes or no.
I know.
So,
Do I think it's something that, over time I could learn to shut out the outside noises?
do you
Probably.
do you need to shut them out? So let me ask you this way, maybe a little bit differently. When you think about those things, do you think about who you are or what you have to do? Because one of the things you mentioned is, 3 months from now, I got to do this and I got to do that. You're always thinking about what you have to do. How much time do you really think about who you are?
Yeah, most of the time it is what I have to do.
Yeah.
It is, for me to sit down and think of who I am is another difficult
Or who you want to be.
thing. It is hard. Um, some days I can wake up and be I can envision it clearly. I can see where I want to go. I can see what I want to do. And 2 days later I can wake up and it's starting to get, it's there, but it's a little blurry. And then there's other mornings I get up and it's so foggy I can't see 2 feet in front of me.
Do you notice how when you're talking, do you realize how you go right back to what you do? I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do. Have you noticed that when you talk about these things?
So, is this turning into my personal coaching session
No,
this morning?
but I think I'm asking you this because you've made mention to me before that the way that I think is not really the way that most people think. And and the way I think today about, we teach it in our 3I Life events. Who you are matters more than what you do. That is your character. That's your personhood first,
Absolutely.
right? So who you are always trumps what you do. But the real question is, when you think about that, who are you? Who are you? How do you describe yourself in that future state, right? How do you describe yourself? And I think that that's something I've had to practice because I was no different than you, dear. I mean, I would spend every day thinking about what I have to do, what I have to do, what I have to do, what I have to do. And that would keep me right where I am, right where I am, right where I am. And when I started to learn through a lot of reading and studying and different things, that I needed to envision who I am out there in that future. Who is that person out there? What do they feel? Right? What do they feel? What have they experienced and how is that experienced give them a feeling, give them a perspective? What is their belief in certain things? What are those things that I see in that future as it pertains to who I am? And then I can come back through that process and say, what did that person do to become who they are? Right? I have to play that in reverse. What do I have to do to become that person in a future state?
Well, for me, figuring out who I am, it is hard. It's very
Yep.
emotional. It's an emotional
Right.
ride for me, especially, I have to go back and know that I am not the mistakes I made in my life,
No,
but
absolutely not.
but being who I am, that is a lot of the times what I see. That's what um and I'm not so much anymore because I'm working very diligent on working through that and past that. But there is a lot of people that I would probably guess feel the same. They look at the past and think, and I think that's what makes looking at the future a little blurry because um of the choices that we've made previous and seeing yourself as a different person. So learning who you are, as you said, is a core thing. But being able to stand in the mirror and point at yourself and say, I love you, is such a huge thing, and it took a very long time for me to do that. You know, I would look in the mirror and say I love you and just in tears because
Yeah,
of the past. But we have to just remind ourselves we are not the mistakes that we made.
absolutely. And that's a huge part of it, Rebecca, because we look at those mistakes as failures.
Right.
Okay. How should you look at failure?
As a learn.
As a learning opportunity,
Right.
right? If you did not have that in your past, if you didn't have that experience, how would you know how to help someone else who's been through that?
See, I understand that now, but I will say somebody who is just beginning down this road that doesn't maybe understand that it was a learn, it's not their life.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here,
I know.
is to help that person who doesn't understand that. And that's such a big part of it, Rebecca. Your story is absolutely amazing. Your story is every time you talk about it, it just blows me away because I know who you are today and I know who you want to be tomorrow. And that's what makes your story so amazing. You know, you've struggled with the pain, you've struggled with the things that were outside of your control that make you so amazing today. And that's the really cool part about this. And for you to be able to go through that experience and to be able to learn from it and to help others grow and learn from it, that's so powerful. And that's where we can oftentimes get caught up, though, is the fact that we will start believing that what happened to us is who we are. No, what happened to you was part of your path. And it's part of the journey. If you know where you're going and you can see that vision out there, that was just part of the journey to get there.
You know, one of the things that we teach in our living a 3 eye life, one of the things that we talk about is our first eye is influence.
Yeah,
But it does go back to you have to know who you are before you can influence and make impact. And
absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
defining who you are, what your values are,
Yeah.
what your beliefs are.
Yep.
You have to understand that part of it.
Yep.
And it's difficult. So it kind of goes back to our whole topic here is how do you know what to look for if you don't know what you're looking for?
That's right.
And the first thing has got to be looking in here
Hmm.
first.
Yeah, it really does come down to that. You know, we've talked a little bit about looking at that vision, that future, that thing, but it starts here.
Mhm.
That's where you as an individual, yeah, I come to the realization with the full on belief that I'm a spiritual being in a physical body. I'm not a physical body with a spirit. I'm a spirit first, a body second, with the ability to think, create, design, and do something with my imagination. I have an intellect that I can grow with. But at the end of the day, if I didn't believe what I believe, I think I'd have a hard time with that. And those are my values,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's where all of us have to be. You have to establish a foundational value. You have to establish the values that you have in your life, and you're going to stand on those. It's not for us to judge that they are right or wrong. You have to create that for yourself. And once you have those foundational values, then you can start looking at yourself into that future.
Mhm.
You can start seeing that picture in the
Well,
future.
and here's another suggestion. If when you start doing that, when you start um, looking at who you are to the core, I know one of the big things that we have to avoid is comparison syndrome.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, comparing. Well, I should be here because they're there, or I should look like this because they look like that,
No. Yeah.
and That's that there again, that's not who you are, that's who they are. You have to be who you are.
Yeah, it's like that. The craziness of that is like looking out here at the interstate and say everybody's supposed to end up at Oregon at the same time. It doesn't make sense. You know, you're traveling the path, the interstate of life in your lane, in your way,
At your speed.
at your speed. You have to,
Hopefully it's not under 45,
and
but
hopefully it's not in the left lane. But it's one of those things you have to be able to understand is like we're not all going to get to the same place at the same time. Why
Mhm,
are you comparing yourself to somebody else in this journey of life? When you really, really think about it, it doesn't make sense, but yet we do it all the time.
mhm.
And I really think it's done because we're being held back. But
Well,
that's
and
another discussion.
so here's another part of that. When you have someplace that you want to go personally, where you want to go, y you're going to get there as slow or as fast as you want to.
Depending on what you do with it. Yeah.
Because, I mean, depending on how much you put into it or how fast you know, to me, slow and steady wins the race. It's just for me, and that's how I have done things, learning because sometimes, I gotta go back and reread things that I've read just because I need to remind myself what it said. Um, but you take your journey, like he said, don't look at the person next to you going, "Oh, they finished this in 6 months, and it's taken me 9." That's okay.
Doesn't matter how long it takes you. It's matters you take the journey.
But I am gonna go back to the very beginning of this and tell you that the first step is taking the first step.
You got to start.
You have to start, no matter what it is, whichever direction that you're going in, you have to take that first step.
Yep. All right. We have anybody on our Zoom audience that wants to step up and share a little bit this morning? Love to hear from our Zoom audience. Small audience this morning, but let's see if anybody wants to jump in. If not, Rebecca, let's start wrapping this up.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm gonna go back to what we just talked about. You gotta take the first step. You gotta move in the direction that you want to go. Um, don't stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. I know I'm one that has a hard time doing that, but I'm slowly getting there.
And I would challenge you to learn just like you have learned. You know, you made comment that you have a hard time sitting down and being quiet. You got to have the TV on. You got to have the radio on. You got to do this. You got to do that. You do realize that all this technology is not that old, right? Like we have a 6,000-year-old Earth, and we didn't have any of this until the last few years. So we actually can sit down and be quiet. I mean, try and
I
imagine
couldn't even do that in school.
Try to imagine being a cowboy out on a horse running across the western plains, and all you had was your own voice to sing to. That's your noise right there, is your own voice,
See, or
right?
whistling. They whistled.
You could whistle to yourself, but that's your noise. Could you imagine what that would be like?
I do, because if I'm whistling to myself, I'm not focusing on what I'm thinking about because I'm wondering, is that the right song? Ooh, I didn't hit the right note. Oh, that sounded, hey, that was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
You have no idea what my brain is like.
but think about that. It's really not that hard.
Maybe for you. For
It's
you, it's not.
practice. It's something that we have to learn how to do. It's a practice thing. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Well,
Well,
Rebecca, this has been enjoyable. I really love this part of the journey, and it's one of those things that we get to do this together on
yeah.
Mondays, and I do I do enjoy these times. with you. I enjoy hearing how you see things, and of course, when you're live and you're in front of the entire world out here live, it's like you're not gonna get mad at me if I.
Oh, I don't guarantee that. Don't think the camera and the audience is going to help you sometimes because
But no, it is something that you and I have looked at differently over the years, and I do challenge everybody to find that journey that's right for you. Get on that journey, and then have we talk about the joy in the journey. I love the joy in the journey, and everybody's like, oh, life is all about the destination and this and that and the other. It is. There's you need to have a destination that you want to take your life to, but at the end of the day, you've got to enjoy the journey. You've got to enjoy the journey. If you don't enjoy the journey, if you don't find a way to just live in that journey, it's going to be absolutely amazing. You're going to miss out on so many different things that are absolutely amazing.
I think one of the things I like about our Monday Mind Shift is sometimes our two different views because
Well, Carrie just said it's the difference between you two is your power.
oh,
So that's pretty cool.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But there was a movie years ago called He Said, She Said, and it was just different perspectives. It
Yep.
was his perspective and her perspective, and it
Yep.
was just that's kind of what sometimes this reminds me of. I think it's one of those things we are focused on the same end goal,
Yep.
but our journey to it is
Yeah.
is different.
Yeah. And it's important, but that either way, you want to find joy in that journey, enjoy it. You might be on a different path. There's days I think you're in a different car, in a different book, on a different road.
There's
You
days
might
that
be in
I
a
think
different
you're in a
state.
different conversation when we're done. Because
All right. All right.
anyway, this
Okay.
isn't
Well,
marriage
thank you
counseling
everybody
101.
for being a part of this. And we're really looking forward to next week. I think Rebecca's already working on some content that will be coming your way. And one last plug, if you're not doing anything else, today at 12 o'clock, join us for Monday Mentorship. That will always be available to you guys if you want to really start learning and growing in your business life. Join us for Monday Mentorship at 12 o'clock. We'll put the number out into the Facebook world, the Twitter world. We'll get that number out there so you guys can see that.
Yep.
All right. God bless everybody. Make it an amazing week.
Thank you.